Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to study Between Heaven and Earth. As I've been doing with this book, first I want uh, to remind ourselves what we studied in the last month, and in this case, the last couple of months, because on chapter 22, that has some say on these chapters that we are going to start today. Clarencio decided to ask Sister Clara for helping rescuing Odila. Odila is the mother of Evelina, who's the one that sent the original prayer that started the book. They go to Sister Clara residence. Clarencio explains that Andre Luiz, gets curious why Clarencio cannot himself rescue Odila, and Clarencio says that knowledge is not enough sometimes, that you need to have uh, profound love, and that's what Sister Clara is able to provide. So on chapter 23, we have Sister Clara visiting Evelina's home, and Andre Luiz then describes her transfiguration when she goes into prayer and the chromatic radiations of her aura resembling a splendid rainbow. Then we have the dialogues between Sister Clara and Odila is transformed in the loving power of the sublime messenger, releasing Zulmira from her obsessive influence. Then on chapter 24, we have Zulmira, that although free from Odila's obsessive influence, remains apathetic and discouraged. On the other hand, Odila, showing great inner renewal, receives a visit from Amaro, her former husband, and Zulmira's actual husband, who, in taking from his sleep, saw him partial detachment from the body in a sleep state, is brought to her presence at the recovery home where she was placed by Sister Clara. And then we have a repairing understanding between Amaro and his deceased former wife. And Amaro awakes radiant in his best behavior. So just to reminder who is important for us in this chapter here, Odila, the mother of Evelina, and Evelina is the girl that started the whole thing with the prayer. We have Amaro, who formerly was Armando in the previous incarnation, and we have Zulmira, who is Amaro's present wife, and former Lina in a previous incarnation that they had a relationship with Armando, then Armando. And then we have Julio, the young boy who died in the sea, drowned in the sea. That was formerly also Julio in the previous incarnation, that killed himself, first ingesting poison and then throwing himself in the river. So these are the characters that are going to be involved in this study today, that we need to remember who they are. Okay, so now we're going for the book itself, and we are starting on chapter 25, which is reconciliation. Wayne, can you read for us?
Sure. Reconciliation. Amaro didn't register his discarnate wife's plea as audible words, but as a silent appeal to his mental life. Thinking of Zulmira, he went into their small eating area with the uncomfortable desire to tell her about the strange contentment he was feeling. Wouldn't it be only fitting to envelop his sick wife in a wave of joy that had come over him? Odila trembled for an instant when she saw his sudden happiness at the prospects of restoring his tenderness to his second wife. I understood the effort that such an initiative demanded of her, and once more I realized that the death of the body did not exonerate the spirit of its duty to renew itself. Deep down, she did not immediately feel a complete absence of jealousy. She did, however, accept the ideal of sublimation that had been planted in her sentiment, and she did not seem willing to waste this opportunity of readjustment. Noticing the weakening of her energies, Clara said to her maternally, "Be strong. All the good that you do for Zamira will rebound in your favor. Don't lose heart. Help yourself. By being willing to seek the good, you will accomplish miracles. Sacrifice is the price we pay for true happiness." A loving embrace by her benefactress infused her with renewed energies. Her eyes shone once more. Embracing her husband, she gently induced him to go to the bed on which the poor woman was lying. The patient obviously hadn't received any shows of affection from her husband for a long time, so she was really surprised when she saw his caring, happy face. "Zamira," he asked as he bent down to her gaunt, disconsolate face, "are you feeling better now?" "Yes, I am," she sighed hesitantly. "Listen, today I woke up thinking about us and our happiness. Don't you think it's time for us to do something about all this suffering we've been going through? I'm really concerned about you. You've been bedridden and depressed ever since Giulio died. I noticed that Amaro's chest area was emanating a broad band of radiant energy, like a stream of silver-green rays of light that enveloped Zamira's chest area, awakening irrepressible emotions." The poor thing began to cry, giving us the impression that the fluids pouring over her were cleansing her soul. "As you can see," said Clarencio, "sincerity makes characteristic resources available. It emits energies that leave no margin for error. The pure sentiment with which Amaro is now speaking to his wife will be a decisive factor in her recovery." Assisted by Odelia, the railroad worker wiped away the tears streaming abundantly from those macerated, sad eyes and continued, "I need you to trust me. After all, we are husband and wife. How can I be happy without your help? We didn't get married just to cry." "Oh, Amaro," exclaimed Zamira in agony, still retaining the last mental residue of her tormenting guilt complex, "how can I ever thank you for the joy of this hour? But I can still see Giulio's face. I feel hounded by remorse. I didn't do all that I should have to save him. Let's forget the past. We all belong to God, and I truly believe that the divine will lives with us everywhere. Of course, we really miss Giulio, but we can't neglect the life that heaven has granted us. We have to fight for victory." Linked to the mind of his first wife, as she did all she could to help him, he continued with a tender inflection in his voice, "Don't forget that we belong to the moral commitments we have assumed. My love for my son used to mean everything to me, but it cannot be more important than our love for each other. Please get a hold of yourself. Let's live our life together. We still have Evelina and our happiness." The sick woman sat up with a reanimated and different look in her eyes.
Thanks.
Okay.
So that was a long passage here. So Amaro goes, he wakes up inspired by the so-called dream, but the spiritual experience he had with Odila in the spiritual world, and he decides to actually, just let me go back here. The end of last chapter, Odila embraces him as he wakes up and exclaims, "Let's go, my dear, let's extend our happiness. Zulmira is awaiting our love." So she's asking him to go and talk to Zulmira. But when she sees him going happily to meet Zulmira, we don't change overnight. We cannot expect Odila, that has been obsessing Zulmira for such a long time, that understood her wrong ways and spent some time in the house, the recovering house of assistance that Sister Clara took her, and changed really her disposition. But our instincts still belong to us, and it takes some time for us to overcome. We have to keep trying to overcome our imperfections, and we have to make an effort. So she is happy to help him, and she's really willing to help the couple. But when she sees him going to his second wife, uh, she suddenly she starts feeling uneasy. Jealousy comes back because that's what she had. She had a deep case of jealousy that caused the process of obsession. So deep down, she did not immediately feel a complete absence of jealousy. And the lesson for us here is when we are trying to overcome our imperfections and we are making an effort, that's really what's important, that we keep focusing and trying to do it and continue making an effort, because we are going to fall back in our old habits many times. But if we allow ourselves to get discouraged by our failures or our weaknesses, we are never going to overcome. So what Andre Luiz is telling us, that she accepts the ideal of sublimation that had been planted in her sentiment, and she did not seem willing to waste this opportunity of readjustment. So she understood, she felt the jealousy, but she knew that more important was to continue to help the couple, especially her former husband, her daughter, and to strengthen the relationship, and we'll see the effect that this will have. So the lesson for us here is we are not going to overcome overnight our imperfections and erase them. It is a process. It is sometimes a, a, a difficult fight, but we cannot give up. We need to keep trying, because eventually we will overcome them if we insist. Clara says to uh, to Odila, "Be strong. All the good you do for Zulmira will rebound in your favor." Again, every act of charity we practice towards others, we are the main beneficiaries of charity. We are the ones that evolve by practicing charity. Help yourself by willing to seek the good, you will accomplish miracles. Again, miracles here, we know that in Spiritism we do not believe in miracles, but in the word that things will change, that will look like miracles. And sacrifice is the price we pay for true happiness. Again, the effort and the sacrifice that we make on trying to improve ourselves. So Amaro goes there. Zulmira is still bedridden, still not well. She's kind of surprised to see him there, and she answers him kind of hesitantly. She's not sure what's happening there, because he hasn't shown any affection for her in a very long time. But you see, when he starts talking to her honestly, Andre Luiz mentions to us that from his chest area, a broad band of radiant energy was emanating, and that energy enveloped Zulmira's chest area. So the effort of our vibrations, the effect of our vibrations on other people can be felt, and if they are sincere, they can make a difference. So Amaro's energies here are changing the way that Zulmira is feeling, and her reaction towards him opening her, bringing down her barriers towards her husband that she built from the time he stayed away from her, from the time that Julio had died drowning. And Clarencio tells us that sincerity makes characteristic resources available, emits energies that leave no margin for error. The pure sentiment which Amaro is now speaking to his wife will be a decisive factor in her recovery. The lesson for us here, let us try to, when we are providing assistance to others, providing help and assistance, especially to our loved ones, sincerity has to be in our heart, or we have to work towards achieving sincerity. Again, it's impossible for us or it's very hard for us to have sincere desire to help others. Sometimes we have to make an effort, but we have to make an effort, because by building this effort time and time again, we'll get to the point of doing it because of who we are, not because we're making an effort. Again, keep training, keep doing it, keep repeating it until it becomes part of who we are. That's what the spirits teach us. So here on the conversation continues. Remember, he is a railroad worker, Amaro. And then he starts talking to her that they need to be happy, they need to find happiness, that they didn't get married to cry. And she says that she's still feeling guilty about Julio's death, that she feels that she didn't do all she could to save him, which is true. We saw that. But Amaro says very well, inspired, that let's forget the past. We miss Julio, but we can neglect the life that heaven has granted us. And again, the lesson here, the present is what's important. There's nothing in the past that we can change, but by living the present in the best possible way, we are going to build a better future for ourselves. We have to fight for victory. And he says here, by the end, my love for my son used to mean everything to me, but it cannot be more important than our love for each other. And he's not saying that it cannot be less important. He's saying that the love for his wife has to be as important as the love that he has for his son that is back in the spiritual world. And he reminds her that they still have Evelina to take care of and their happiness. And then that Azulmira sits in the bed, set up, reanimated, with a different look. Okay? Questions, comments here? Elmo, anything to add here?
Well, the other thing that I would add is you already talked on the sincerity. It's fundamental to the discussion is the chapter they start with, I noticed that Amara's chest area was emanating abroad radiant energy, and Zulmira was receiving this energy in her own chest area as well. What that means, that it's not just words. Something that you always say in our Monday meetings throughout here, we repeat many times that words are important. We need to use words to communicate, to make individuals receive our thoughts. But if you don't bathe those thoughts with true, sincere emotions, it's just words. It's bounce in ears and goes nowhere. But when it's filled with true emotions, then it's something that goes from the chest area, so the cardiac chakras that are responsible for for dealing with affection, with love, with charity, all those good stuff, to straight to her heart. So the words are important. He needs to verbalize all the things that he did, but more important is the energies that emanates from that part of ourselves. The chest area, the cardiac chakra that deals with love, with charity, that is received. And from the other side, the receiver has to be open and receptive to that as well, right? Because again, we can take the horse to the water, but we cannot make it drink. We can do all that we can to pass the best thing that we have to someone else, but if that someone else is close to it, is not receptive, it's not going to happen. That's happened in this case over here, in which the emotions, the true sincere sentiments from Amaro was well received by Zumira, and there is that connection that vulgarly would say heart to heart, but literally is that chest area to chest area.
And when when we were talking about that, I was thinking, and also Amaro is open to the spiritual influence of Odila, receiving Odila's influence also, that is helping him, giving him strength to have this conversation. So the same thing, right? If he was not sincere on his intentions, it would be more difficult for him to receive Odila's influence. But because he's sincere and open, he's also receiving Odila's reinforcement on the work that he's doing. So it takes a village, right? There is this expression, right? So that's a teamwork there that is in place. Okay. All right, let's continue.
And while her husband got comfortable besides her, Odila, with a satisfied look, went into Evelina's room. We instinctively followed her in order to help her out if she ran into any problems. But to our ineffable surprise, she put her hand on the girl's head, soliciting her presence. In just a few instants, Evelina's spirit returned to the room where her body was lying. When she saw her mother, she ran to her. Both fell into a long, emotional embrace mixed with tears. Finally, at long last, cried the girl, "My daughter, my child." Odelia looked at her with eyes inflamed with hope and pleaded, "Evelina, help us. If we don't come together under the light of understanding and toil, our house will fall. Your father and I cannot do without your help. The happy continuation of our task depends on Zumira's health and presence and peace. God has not brought us all together for indifference or selfishness, but for a wholesome service to each other." "Oh, Mom," explained the girl, ecstatic, "I've been praying for you to help us." "Yes, Evelina, I know that in your selfishness you have remembered to pray. Jesus has answered your prayers. I was deaf, the victim of destructive din of my own incomprehension, but I feel that my soul was reawakened. I can see that we must do something to restore the esteem of your father and the joy of our home. I'll keep on praying." "Good. Don't forget to pray, my dear. But remember that effective prayer without deeds is like a flower without fragrance. Let's pray for the Lord's help, but let's do something to contribute to his divine apostolate. Let's begin to trust your new mother again. Behave better toward her. Get close to her and work on preserving peace around the house so that she can feel sure of your affection and filial understanding. A rose on the table, a diligent sweeping of the floors, an article of clothing carefully put away, a brush in its proper place. These are all services to Jesus in the family sanctuary, by which we can practice our faith. Don't just stop with good intentions. Get to work to manifest harmony. Be the angel of service in our humble home. Zumira needs both a sister and a daughter. Use the opportunity to do the best you can.
Thanks. So here we have Odila leaving to meet her daughter, Evelina. So she goes to Evelina's room. Evelina is still sleeping. She goes there, and again, here, what we are experiencing happens in the spiritual world, not in the physical world. The conversation between Amaro and Zulmira happened in the physical world. They are both incarnated. Here, Odila, discarnated, goes to Evelina, who's sleeping, and calls for her in spirit. Evelina comes back to show she is sleeping. Where is she? Her spirit. Evelina is wandering away, having experiences in the spiritual world during her sleep, like many of us do, like Amaro had in the previous chapter when he went to meet Odila in the house of assistance that Odila was staying. So here, Evelina's spirit, or Evelina, because we have a physical body, but we are the spirit, she returns to the room where her body was lying. She didn't wake up. She just returned in spirit to the room. It doesn't say here that she returned to her physical body and woke up. She returned to the room. It's very important for us to understand what's happening here. What's happening here happens in the spiritual world. So they meet, she hugs her mother, they embrace, tears, and then Odila asks Evelina to start working to help her father and Zulmira, that they need to work together to improve Zulmira's health and peace, that we have to help each other. And then Evelina says to her mother, remember, Evelina is 15 years old, okay? That's something that maybe we forgot about the beginning of the book. Evelina is 15 years old. When she says, I've been praying for you to help us. We know that Evelina has been praying and asking for her mother to come and help, and that's what started the whole book, a diverted prayer, the prayer that she's been sending to her mother because she deserves the help and assistance, went directly to ended up with a Clarencio that called Andre Luiz and Hilario to help. And Odila says that I know that you have been praying, and then Jesus answered your prayers, that she was deaf, she, Odila, was deaf, couldn't hear her prayers, but now her soul, reawakened. And then when Evelina says, I'll keep on praying, Odila gives something here to us that is very important. Effective prayer without deeds is like a flower without fragrance. Prayer is important, but we cannot stop at praying. We have, as she says here, let's pray for the Lord's help, but let's do something to contribute to his divine apostolate. You know, there is this funny story or interesting story about the guy that was in a city that was flooded, and he goes to the top of his house, and then he sits there, starts praying, and then the first boat comes to try to rescue him. Says, "No, I'm in prayer." And then comes the second boat, and he refuses any help, and then he ends up drowning. And then when he wakes in the spiritual world, he says, I spent the whole time praying for God. Where was God? And then the answer he gets from this protecting spirits. Well, God was there in the first boat that came to you, in the second boat that came to you, but you did pray, but you didn't do anything with your prayers. We have to act on our prayers. So Odila says here, let's put a rose on the table, clean the floors, do your room, right? An article of clothing carefully put away, a brush in the proper place. Why? Because every action towards the fulfilling of the prayer and helping the environment helps the answering of the prayers, right? And she says these are all services to Jesus. What a 15-year-old can do to help the family. The first thing is not to be a burden, right? Because a teenager is a lot of times they are a burden to the parents. They make life very hard at home. They are always complaining and always making things difficult for themselves and for the whole family. So uh, Odila is telling her here, get to work to manifest harmony, be the angel of service. So instead of being causing trouble in the home, try to organize and help the home to be a family sanctuary, because by doing that, you allow the others in the home to focus on what's important for their own individual progresses. Again, we know that Evelina is a good spirit. She has a good heart. Otherwise, her prayers wouldn't be answered. In the whole book is based on her prayers. But it's important for us to remind ourselves that prayer is very important. But prayer without action behind it, it's not the best, the most efficient way we can uh, work for ourselves, right? When I almost always talks in prayers, active resignation, because resignation can seems very passive, and active resignation, it means accept the outcomes but work to improve our lives and everything around us. Okay, Elmo, anything to add here?
No, I think it's all covered.
Okay, any questions here? Okay, let's continue, Wayne.
With indefinable happiness illuminating her face, Evelina embraced her mother with extreme tenderness and kissed her over and over. Then, in obedience to Clara, she retook her physical body and woke up filled with a joy that was so great that she felt as if she had come down from the heavenly realms. Odilia's loving and beautiful image filled the entire mirror of her mind. She stretched out her arms as if she could still touch her mother with her fingers of flesh, retaining a full memory of the unforgettable meeting. Intensely happy, she leapt out of the bed and got dressed. After she had washed up, Odilia took her in her arms and led her to Zumira. Induced by her mother's influence, she passed through the kitchen and came to her stepmother, offering her a small tray with a light meal. Amaro and Zumira greeted her warmly. "My God," said Zumira, smiling, "it looks like an angel has come into our home. The day really is getting off to a good start." Evelina reached the bed, hugged the two in a single embrace, and said joyously, "I had a dream about Mom. I saw her so clearly, as if she was right here with us. She said that we need to love each other and that I should be the daughter that Zumira never had. Ah, what happiness. Mom has heard my prayers." The railroader made note of this, but kept his own memories of the night to himself so as not to injure the susceptibilities of his wife. And although she recalled the repeated nightmares when she had felt tormented by Odilia's jealousy, Zumira suppressed her own memories to adhere wholeheartedly to the optimism of that blessed moment of peace and renewal. Contemplating her stepmother with rapture, the girl exclaimed, "I want to be better, more diligent, and easier to get along with. Dad, you and I are going to be happier from now on." Zumira breathed a sigh of relief and added, No doubt about it. Odelia must be our guardian angel. This morning is too joyful for her happiness to be a mere dream or a coincidence. That statement of gratitude coming spontaneously from the woman whom she had regarded as her enemy touched Odelia's innermost fibers. Unable to bear the emotion, she began to weep amid acknowledgement and rejoicing. Sister Clara embraced her and said humbly, "Weep, my child, weep with joy. Truly, when sublime love enters our heart, the light of the Lord begins to govern our steps through life."
Okay, so Evelina then wakes up. She retook her physical body. Again, we were seeing her engaging with Odila in the spiritual world. She wakes up filled with joy, like she had come down from the heavenly realms. A very pleasant dream. She remembers dreaming with her mother, and again, the ability of, we talked about in this book, the ability to remember our dreams. It's according to the relevance of what happened and the relevance of our remembrance. Amaro woke up with his experience with Odila, just remembering that he had a good dream, and he met Odila, he was happy, then he had to go and help Sumira. Evelina had a more detailed recollection of the dream with her mother, because everything that happened was for her own good and would help her in her life, the remembrance of the experiences she had with her mother. So that's why she's assisted by Sister Clara, she's able to remember more of the experience. So she's still under the experience she had, very happy, as she could almost touch her mother. She gets out of bed, she goes prepare a light meal and goes to the room where Amaro and Zulmira are. And Zulmira says, it looks like an angel has come into our home. The day really is getting off to a good start. So adding to the positive experiences she had with Amaro, now Evelina is also helping. So all of this is having a positive effect on Zulmira. She's recovering fast by the loving energies sent to her by Amaro and by Evelina. And then Evelina talks about the dream, very happy, without really understanding, of course, the problems that Zulmira had with Odila. And she's saying that Mom has heard my prayers, that she's been praying for Odila, and she's answering the prayers. And very important here, also, Amaro made a note of this, but didn't say anything about Odila because he didn't want to injure the susceptibilities of his wife. Important to know what to say and when not to say. There is nothing positive that would have brought here of Amaro talking about Odila. These experiences he had with Odila, and very loving experiences, if you remember last chapter, he keeps to himself. He knows that the task here, the objective, is different, is to help Zulmira recover and to help the family. And there is nothing positive that he's going to bring here by bringing his own recollections of his experiences with Odila, because that could only make Zulmira jealous or unhappy, especially because Zulmira is here trying to suppress her own memories of the torment that she was having with the obsession that Odila was imposing on her. So Evelina says that she wants to be happy, better, she's going to help them. Again, it comes from a 15-year-old. We have to understand that she's speaking as a 15-year-old here. Zulmira, very relieved, says that Odila must be the guardian angel. that is protecting them. And it immediately, when she says that, Odila receives this statement of gratitude that came from the woman that she was obsessing, and she breaks down and starts crying of happiness, rejoicing. And Sister Clara tells her, yes, when sublime love enters our heart, the light of the Lord begins to govern our steps through life. So if we are working the right path, we have all the assistance from the spiritual world to reinforce our good intentions and our good work. And that's what's important here. The transformation that is happening around the whole home on the incarnates and on the Dila as discarnate. And that's going to be a very important effect on Odila that we are going to see on the next chapter, what she's ready now to do, which is there is a missing part in this whole happy family reunion, right? And we can imagine who is the missing part, the one that departed early and drowned when he was 8 years old, little Julio. Okay, Elmo, anything to add here?
No, I was just wondering, I think it requires a little bit of the purity of a heart to receive all this 180 degrees, so to say, from the night before to the morning, and not be suspicious of something. You know, perhaps in my lack of purity or my contaminated heart, I start to think, oh my God, I would be like, what's going on here? Why are they planning something? Why they change so much overnight and come with so much infusion of love? Is what should I expect from this? You know, I'd be suspicious of something almost.
Yeah, I think what's important here is that the transformation of Odila, it's not immediate. It took some time. She spent some time there in Clara's under Clara's assistance for the repair and for the preparation for these things. So if we divide by each person here, Odila, she didn't change overnight. She was rescued from the obsessing process. She was taken to a house of assistance, and she spent some time there. And when she was ready, then Amaro is brought there to have the conversation with her. So Amaro, we cannot say that he changed 180, right? He was just under the negative influence of his own mind for losing his son, and finding that his true love was really Odila, not Zulmira, kind of regretting the marriage to Zulmira because he didn't find the happiness he had with Odila. So it was a matter of waking him up to the responsibilities of the present life, right? Evelina didn't change anything, right? She was where she was, and she was happy to meet her mother and change her disposition towards the family. The transformation here is on Zulmira, right? She's very down. She's sick, unable to properly function in her life, and by receiving the energies that come from Amaro, from Evelina, the energies makes her gain strength. We see that in the very beginning of the chapter, she hasn't changed. She's there laying in bed completely prostrated without any signs of improvement. And it's by the loving energies that Amaro sends and that Evelina brings to her then that she starts to change her inner disposition. So yes, of course, we read it appears that it changed overnight, but I think if we analyze each character by its own changes, we see that it's not really an overnight change. Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, I'm talking about the receiver. I'm not talking about the talking about Zumira herself. All the sudden, she's receiving all this attention, all this affection, which is being denied for her for quite some time, and she's not suspicious that what's happening here, what's going on here. She's just embracing and receiving everything with a purity that I don't know that if I would have, I would be kind of suspicious. Are they planning something over here? I mean, when
Yeah,
the alms is too much, we start get suspicious something. She has
I
so much
get.
purity of heart that she receives it without questioning. In my contaminated heart and mind, perhaps I would be like, what's up here? Let me back up and protect myself from something here.
Yeah,
Myself in the defensive mode, so to say.
we are going to maybe come back to Zulmira later. It's not going to be in the next chapter, but I understand, and I think that and I agree with you. But I think that again, we talked about sincerity, right? I think the sincerity of the energies coming from Evelina and Amaro is what is uh, making an effect, a positive effect on her. Maybe even if she had this suspicious, that I agree with you, she should have. The energies are so overwhelming, the positive energy, that may be maybe enough to envelop her and make her be more receptive to them. But again, we're just speculating here. Okay, so now next chapter, mother and son.
Chapter 26, Mother and Son. True joy had crowned the domestic trio. Displaying the expectations of a student hoping to receive her mentor's approval, Odelia looked teary-eyed at Sister Clara and asked, "Have I acted correctly?" We could see that she needed an encouraging word. The venerable friend held her close to her heart. "You've done everything marvelously," she said tenderly. You have grasped the holy duty of love. You will bless this wonderful day of selfishness forever." Odelia held on to her like a child in her mother's arms, weeping copiously. "Now don't be like that," pleaded Clara as she stroked Odelia's hair. We, too, were touched. Amaro's first wife responded with difficulty. "I'm not crying because I'm suffering. I feel light and happy. Why couldn't I have understood all this before?" "Yes," explained Clara, "you have lost a spiritual weight, enabling you to take a step upward. Our passions hold us to the earth, just as bird line keeps a bird from flying away." And caressing her, she exclaimed, "Let's go. You have shown pure love, and so you will never lack pure love. From now on, you will be a blessed messenger here, for you will work with the guardian of angels of our destinies, who selflessly watch over us as they await us in the higher life. By yielding your love for your husband to another woman, whose collaboration he needs to redeem himself, you have won a new patrimony of love from him. And by bringing your daughter to the one whom we must regard as a sister, you have acquired the merit you needed to regain the son whose future you shall guide. This very day, Julio will be at your side." Transfigured, Odelia's face revealed the bliss that flowed from her inner world. The sun was inundating the earth with its life-giving rays as we took Odelia to the hospital, and with the promise to come back for her later to make the trip to Lar de Beneco.
Yes, Lar de Benzo, the blessing home. So here the first thing that is interesting, right? Odila has done all this work, but she needs reassurance, and we can understand that. Sometimes it's important when someone that is close to us is doing a positive job, is doing something right. Maybe our children, maybe our partners, maybe our colleagues at work. An encouraging word is needed sometimes. She asked for reassurance from Sister Clara, and Sister Clara tells her, yes, you have grasped the holy duty of love. You bless this wonderful day of selflessness forever. You will always remember this day when everything changed for you because of your good actions. And she was still crying, and Odila says, I'm not crying because I'm suffering. I feel light and happy. And why couldn't I have understood all this before? And this is also very important, right? When we recognize our mistakes of the past, many times we'll feel like, why didn't we change on the endless opportunities we had to change in the past, and we didn't do anything. But again, we have to look to the future. Sister Clara says here, you have lost a spiritual weight. You became lighter in terms of your spiritual energy, your perispirit. Our lower passions hold us to earth just as birdlime, which is a viscid matter used for catching birds, right? That's what birdlime is. It's something that prevents birds from flying, that keeps birds from flying away. And our lower passions, our lower vibrations keeps us closer to earth and prevents us from moving up on our spiritual journey. And then she explains here, by allowing your love for your husband to another woman that he needs, we know that Amaro needs that to redeem his past. It's not the present, it's the past, what he owns to Zulmira, formerly Lina in previous incarnation. He has to a readjustment with her. It's not a readjustment. It's not a happy marriage. It's a readjustment. And by Odila allowing him to be happy with Zulmira, Odila wins a new patrimony of love from Amaro. And on top of that, by bringing the daughter to help also Zulmira, she now regained the son that she had not really lost, but distanced herself from, because she was so focused on attacking Zulmira that she completely forgot her responsibility towards her son that needed her help more than anything. So now Clara says, this very day, Julia will be at your side. So they are preparing to go to Larda Benson, the blessing home, where we know, and we met Julius before, he's still sick there, still struggling there, being taken care by Blandina. If you forgot her name, that's the one that takes care of Julius there in the spiritual colony for children that we visited with Antonina when she went to visit her son, Marcus, that was there in previous chapters. Okay? Elmo, anything here? No? Elmo?
I'm sorry. No, not really. Sorry.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
A few hours later, when a break in our work commitments afforded us the perfect opportunity, we went to get her. Upheld in Clara's arms, Julio's mother was supremely happy. This was the first time since she had died, that she had taken such a wonderful journey. She burst into exclamations of wonder before the amazing place of light. As we neared the place where we were headed, she inhaled the wholesome air in deep breaths, dazzled by the vision of nature saturated with fragrances and adorned with flowers. She was ecstatic as she contemplated the hundreds of children who were playing merrily. Very pale, her attention focused on the infantile multitude as she eagerly looked for her son. Mentally, she was far from our group, so she let herself be led as if she were an automaton. We accompanied Clarencio to Belinda's residence, where she greeted us with her usual kindness. We went in. There was no need for a lot of talk. Attracted to a large crib, Odelia rushed to the infirm boy, crying in alarm. My son, Giulio, my son. There can be no doubt that universal wisdom has put unfathomable secrets in the maternal heart. There is something miraculous and divine about the bonds that joins mothers and children, something that we have never been able to understand. The sickly child was suddenly transformed. An indescribable expression of joy covered his face. Mama, Mama, he cried in answer. He stretched out his arms and held on to her tight. In tears, she instinctively took him from the crib and tenderly kissed him. After she had settled down somewhat, she sat down beside us with the boy on her lap. Giulio had indeed changed completely. He told his mother about his sore throat and showed her his severely wounded glottis. When we had all recovered from our excitement, Blandina began the conversation. We knew that divine God goodness would not leave our little patient without a mother's tenderness. Giulio will have his mother's irreplaceable devotion from now on. Odelia was understandably concerned about the boy's organic situation and didn't respond, but Clara said lovingly, we hope to room Odelia here in the park for a while, and of course she will be pleased to take charge of the boy. Yes, this school for mothers has vast resources, replied Blandina. Odelia can safely provide Giulio with everything he needs. It grieves me to find him in this kind of shape, said the worried mother. I don't know why he can have such a large sore when he doesn't have a physical body. I'm not capable of suddenly grasping everything I see because I have been out of my mind for so long and incapable of thinking rationally. The minister and Sister Clara looked at each other knowingly, giving me the idea that they were conversing by means of thought. Acknowledging Odelia's dolorous references, Clara indicated Clarencio and said good-humoredly, Clarencio has something to say about that. Yes, began the minister carefully. As is natural, our sister will encounter various problems connected with her pathway to spiritual growth. We are all infinitely far from the heaven we used to imagine while on earth, and each of us has deficiencies that we will have to overcome. The past is reflected in the present. Then he added, our destiny is like a river. No matter how different it becomes as it flows farther and farther from its origin, it is always connected to it by the continuous action of its current. I shall try to understand, said Odelia, more sure of herself. I'm a mother and I cannot shirk my duty to help my son. I'll provide everything he needs for his well-being. I can see that happiness can be won in the world to which we have been led for our renewal. I'll do all I can to see Giulio fully recovered. New ideas are bathing my mind. I absolutely have to make an effort. All those whom we love will have to be with us sooner or later. Different hopes are animating my spirit today. Tomorrow, in the new future, All my family will be here again, and I cannot neglect doing something to find a place for us. She cast a vague and apprehensive look around the room, as if she was contemplating far-off horizons, and concluded, a home, happiness restored, the blessing of being together again. The edifying conversation continued to brighten the room for a long time, warming the flame of friendship and trust within our souls. Landina and Mariana promised to help out, insisting that Odelia stay with them until she got settled in at the learning institution she would be attending. The renewed woman accepted gratefully. We said our happy goodbyes.
Thanks. Okay, a long part. Thanks, Wayne, for staying with it. So they are moving towards Larda Benson, Blessing House. And it's interesting that Andre Luiz says here, a few hours later, when a break in our commitments afforded us the perfect opportunity. So, you know, he's telling the whole story, but there are other work commitments that they attend. Clarencio, Andre Luiz, Hilario. So they are not 100% involved in the story he's telling. And again, we talk a lot about this, right? Our spiritual guides, our spiritual protectors, they are with us every time we need, but they have their own lives, they have their own needs, they have their own work. They're not at our side 24/7. They are with us when we need them. And it's the same thing here. They are doing the whole process of helping and assisting Odila and everything, but while attending their own work that is outside what we are studying here, right? Odila is taken then there to Larda Benson, and she's never, you know, since dying, she's been obsessing Zulmira, so she hasn't seen the wonders of the spiritual world. We are here in the spiritual world. This whole passage happens in the spiritual world. She gets to Larda Benson, where there are hundreds of children who are taken care there, playing. She's looking for her son. And you see that she said, Andre Luiz says that mentally she was far from our group, meaning her mind was somewhere else. She was not paying attention to what was happening to her. She was being led by the team, Clarencio, Sister Clara, and Andre Luiz, and Hilario, without paying much attention to it. Then they take her to Blandina's residence. They go in, and as soon as Odila sees the son, she starts immediately saying, Julio, my son, my son. And Andre Luiz talks to us about the universal wisdom that the secret in the maternal heart, right? There is something miraculous and divine about the bonds that join mothers and children. We know that the responsibility of being a mother is something very fundamental in the natural laws, because it's the opportunity of redemption for struggling spirits to be reunited as mother and children. And we see that all the time in the stories that we study, in these books that we study, but Andre Luiz and other spiritist books, the opportunity of redemption when mothers and children are reunited, and when new physical lives are born out of spirits in death to rescue themselves, and for the mothers and the children to rescue themselves. And the moment that he sees his mother, he changes, right? An expression of joy covered his face. And again, the connection between him and his mother in the physical world lasted not very long, because she died when he was very young, because he himself died when he was 8 years old, already with his father remarried to Zulmira. So we can imagine, it's never said here specifically when she died, how old was he when she died, but he was maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 4. So but the connection between children and mother is such a strong one that he immediately recognizes her. Of course, he was born from her. He was taken care of her in his early years, so he immediately reconnects with her, and he starts feeling better immediately. She takes him from his crib, and again, we talk about the spiritual world. It's everything is happening in the spiritual world. They all have their physical, spiritual bodies, the perispirit, and all the actions resembles very much our physical world. So that's how she sat down with the boy in her lap, and he had changed, but he complains about his sore throat. He shows his wounds, and then Odila says that she doesn't understand how he could still have these sores when he doesn't have a physical body. She's not capable of understanding that we carry our physical scars to the spiritual world if we are not able to repair them on the physical incarnation. So every damage that we do to our physical body intentionally, we carry back to the spiritual world, and that's what happens to Julio here as a consequence, not of his drowning, because it was not his intention to drown, but the consequence of the previous suicide. We know that suicide carries a very heavy consequence for our physical body. So he's still carrying the consequences of first trying to poison himself with and then failing to succeed, drowning himself. So it's a consequence of all the actions he committed in the existence before being the little Julio that died drowning in the previous existence that we saw previously in the book. So he's carrying the scars of the damage that he did to his physical body in the spiritual world. But of course, Odila is not capable of understanding that. It's all new to her. It's her first experiences with a clean mind in the spiritual world, so she doesn't understand why he's still sick. Then Sister Clara and Clarencio talk to each other through thought. And again, we know that more evolved spirits connect and have conversations through thought. We can all talk through thought, but we don't know how at our stage of evolution. Clarencio and Sister Clara, more evolved spirits, have the ability to have this conversation through thought. And then Clarencio talks to Odila, saying that our destiny is like a river. He's trying to explain that we carry the consequences from our past. No matter how different it becomes our life, we move far and far away from the origin like a river. It is always connected to its start, the river start. So our currents is always with you, or the consequence of our actions are always with you. And we carry our deficiencies, and we have to overcome. The past is reflected in the present. We are the consequence of everything that we lived in our pasts. Odila, of course, doesn't fully understand. She says, I'll try to understand, but she knows the responsibility to help her son. And she says that she's going to provide everything he needs, and she will be working tireless to see him fully recovered, that she has ideas, she's going to make an effort, and that she's having hope that all her family will be there again, and she has to prepare a better place for them for the reunion. And then she talks about a happy restored home the blessing of being together again. So she's going to stay there. Clara asked for a place for her to be there. That there is room for Odila in the park. And Blandina says, of course, this is a school for mothers, so it has the resources. Odila is going to stay there to be close to Julio, and help him recover. And then they said their goodbyes and they leave, leaving Odila there with Blandina, Mariana. Mariana is Blandina's grandmother. We mentioned her in the past also. She's focusing on helping and assisting the other, I don't remember exactly what type of group she was focusing on helping. I think related to her church. She was Catholic, and she was focusing on helping the souls related to the church, to her church, to recover. Okay, so then they say their goodbyes. Okay, any questions, comments here, Helmo?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, so the last part here, Wayne.
Sorry. After we had left Clara and were on our way back to our spirit home, I thought it would be a good time to ask the instructor about the issues that were boiling around in my mind. Why couldn't we tell Odelia about Julio's past? Was it wise to leave her uninformed when we knew all about the enigmas of her family? Why couldn't we openly explain the need for the boy to reincarnate? As usual, Clarencio listened serenely and kindly. When I finished my questions, he replied, "At first sight, that would seem like the appropriate road to take. However, the memories of the past must not be wholly awakened, or needless anxieties would afflict the present. Truth for the soul is like the bread for the body, which cannot go beyond the amount it needs for each day. Being too hasty would cause a disaster. Besides, we cannot be so vain as to foresee the measures that will be agreeable and constructive to the love of our sister. When she feels fully integrated into her role as a mother, she herself will accept responsibility for working for the boy's reincarnation. Pleading for such measure to take place in his old home, she will find the blessed service of fraternity, and at the same time, she will feel more responsible for the endeavor. If we made all the decisions for her, Odelia would be unable to act on her own. Whereas entrusting her with the decisions required by the case, she will acquire a renewed interest in helping Zumira, since Zumira is to replace her as mother by providing the boy with a new body. Marveling in this new lesson, my questions were answered. Clarencio, however, with a natural smile that normally marked his face, he added calmly, "Life is a school, and each student enrolled in it has to receive the proper lesson. We'll wait a few days. Since she herself is interested in helping the boy, Odelia will come to us to arrange for the happiness of his return to Earth."
Okay, so here, of course, we have Andre Luiz curious, and we know by his stories and by everything we read that he's always he's a man of action. He wants to go and do things. So the first question after they leave the house is, why couldn't we tell Odila about Julio's past? Why leave her uninformed if they knew everything? Why couldn't they explain that he needs to reincarnate? Andre Luiz knows that the next step, and Blandina told them in the past previously that the boy has to reincarnate. That's what he needs. So why couldn't they tell Odila, Julio has to reincarnate? And then, of course, Clarencio answers very kindly. At first sight, that should look like the appropriate road to take. However, too much light can blind a person. We have always to remember that. he's not saying here we should lie, but sometimes we cannot tell the whole truth. Sometimes we need to withhold the truth if it's for the benefit of the person who is the receiver of our words. And that's a very important lesson. Sometimes we tend to we hear people saying, you know, if it's the truth, we have to tell. Not really. Sometimes the truth is not what's important for the person. Truth is for the soul is like bread for the body, which cannot go beyond the amount it needs for each day. Being too hasty would cause a disaster. Meaning, what he's telling here very wisely is we need to allow Odila to take her own decisions, to choose her own path. We cannot do the work that she needs to do for her. If they present everything to her, she becomes a passive person in the actions that will happen in Julio's reincarnation process. By allowing her to reach her own conclusion, to fully reintegrate into her role as a mother, she will accept the responsibility for working for the boy's reincarnation. She will think that it was her own choice. She would, if we make all the decisions for her, she would be unable to act on her own. And allowing her to make her decisions, she will acquire a renewed interest in helping Zulmira. When she understands that Zulmira needs to be the mother to her son, she will be very interested in helping and assisting Zulmira to give an opportunity, because she'll find by herself that the best opportunity for Julio, the best path for his recovery is to have a new incarnation, and that Zulmira is the best person, the mother, potential mother, to have him as her son. So by allowing her to reach these conclusions by her, they are helping her building her own path and making progress on her own journey. And again, we need to remember we are allowed to make our own choices, right or wrong, based on our free will, because we need to progress by our own effort. If the spirits do the work that we are supposed to do for ourselves, we have no merit. If we have no merit, we have no progress. We need to do our job. That's what Clarencio so wisely is telling Andre Luiz here. And then he concludes by saying that life at school and each student enrolled in it has to receive the proper lesson. The students, we receive the lessons in school, but we need to put in practice the lesson. She herself is interested in helping the boy. She'll come to them to arrange for the happiness. When she reaches the conclusion that he needs a reincarnation, she will go back to Clarencio to ask for the assistance to help him reincarnate. And that's what we'll see later in this book. So it is very important here, the lesson here, that truth is always important, but sometimes it's better not to tell the whole truth if it's going to cause more damage than to benefit. And again, we have to reflect on this. This is a question we face in our daily lives. A lot of times we hear people asking, shouldn't we tell the truth? And we have to reflect, is it going to benefit the person that receives the truth? Again, we're not saying here to lie, but to hold the truth if it's going to cause more harm than benefit. Okay? Elmo, anything here?
Yeah, can you go back to the previous page?
Sure.
I think it's important that the part that says, besides, we cannot be so vain to foresee the measures that will be agreeable and constructive to the love of our sister. Here, Clarence makes sure that he is eliminating this plain written stone. He's eliminating fatalism and is reinforcing free will. The objective, as his father completes here, is to direct her to exercise reason in association with true sincere love, to use her free will that will bring the best outcome to everyone. But they cannot guarantee it. They can also be so vain to foresee the measures that will be agreeable and constructive to her, to the love of our sister. She eventually have to make decisions. So the objective, as his father continues, is to guide her, offer her the necessary lessons to use reason and love to make better decisions, i.e., to use her free will in association with reason and the divine laws.
Thanks, Elmo. Yes. Okay. Any final questions, comments? Okay. So next month, or actually in May, we are going to start to do chapters 27 and 28. And we are going to see the preparations of a new reincarnation by Julius. So we have a few announcements here. Next Sunday, which is the first Sunday of the month, we normally study the book Between Heaven and Earth. We're going to study the Gospel according to Spiritism, because both me and Elmo will be away, her name escaped me now. She's going to direct Lillian. Sorry, Lillian is going to direct the study. She does the study of the Spiritist group of Connecticut on Thursdays at noon, and she's going to conduct the study of the Gospel according to Spiritism. We are studying prayers. Always very important to study prayers, and then we come back the second week, also again to do the Gospel according to Spiritism. So we have 2 Sundays of the Gospel according to Spiritism. We have a big event in Orlando next weekend with some Spiritist speakers. Divaldo will be there, and we will be there also. It's going to be it's going to be in Portuguese with a simultaneous translation. I'm not sure if they're going to show live or not, but we can find the information on the Spiritist Federation of Florida. A new Spiritist review is being released today. The Spiritist review, it's called Plurality of Existences. You can find it on the International Spiritist Council website. It's number 15. Very interesting articles. You can find it online, and it's really worth. Today is March 31st, as I mentioned before. Is the day that Kardec went back to the spiritual world in 1869. He had a sudden heart attack when he was working. So the Spiritist Review is being launched on the day that we commemorate Kardec's return to the spiritual world. In a couple of days, April 2nd is Chico Xavier's birthday. April 2nd, he would have been 114, I think, and yeah, 114. There is a new course, Introduction to Mediumship, that the United States Spiritist Federation released. There's pre-recorded classes on mediumship. You can register and start watching on the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube page. On May 11, we are going to have a special event at SGNY's building, but not at SGNY's place, on the room across SGNY, where we had the mediumship forum. we're going to have an event called Science and Spiritism. It's a Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. We're going to have two lectures by Dr. Alexander Moreira Almeida, talking about his recent release book, Science, the Science of Life After Death, Science of Life After Death, based on his book, is a scientific investigation of survival of the conscience. Dr. Alexander Moreira Almeida is the most important spiritist scientist that we have in Brazil nowadays, investigating and combining science and spiritism. And we will also have a lecture by his wife, Dr. Angelica Almeida, that is part of a project called Project Allan Kardec, where they are trying to rescue the origins of spiritism. It's a beautiful work they've been doing to rescue the Kardec's manuscripts and a lot of lost information that we have from the time of Kardec. She's going to talk about her work. So this is May 11 on a Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. You can register on the Tri-State Spiritist Federation website. It will be on our weekly mail tomorrow. You have to register and you can buy tickets. Tickets are $20. And if you want to buy the book, you can buy the ticket and the book for $50, okay? Again, it's May 11, it's a Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. at our place where we, across the aisle from SGNY on the other side on that room 4A on the 4th floor, okay?
Okay, I missed something wrong. The book is translated?
The book is in English.
It's in English, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Science of Life After Death, yes. Yeah. And he's coming here to present the book in a psychiatric conference that they have in Columbia University and Xavier Center on that week. So he's not coming for our. He's coming for his continued dissemination of his book in the scientific community, which he does a very good effort and work. Okay. Jussara starts a new book on Tuesday at noon. She starts studying the book A Full Life by Joana de Angelis and Divaldo Franco. And I think that's all the announcements I have. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Elmo. And thank you, Wayne, for reading for us today. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together again as brothers and sisters for our studies of the book Between Heaven and Earth, chapters 25 and 26. Changes do not occur overnight, but we must be sincere in our hearts with love, which is proactive. May we endeavor toward goodness and charity. May we be proactive to change old habits and shortcomings, especially when we revert to negative actions. Keep efforting and repeating with goodness to build a better future. Reconciliation is possible. It is possible, and assistance also is available. Prayers are useful, especially when we add sincere actions to fulfill our requests. Repair and reconciliation assists the renewal, especially among family members who have close connections. The process can be very, very delicate, but useful if it goes step by step. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, the mediums, the workers, healers, and all who are participating. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all spiritus centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected by night and by day. As we close now, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we go forth and remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, of charity, which is love in action. Have a blessed Easter. Have a blessed move toward your home tonight or today. Thank you.